When the war erupted in Libya in February 2011, over 500,000 people found refuge in neighbouring countries. Libyans worldwide have come together to show support and solidarity. Yet despite the collapse of Gaddafi's regime, thousands of Libyans remain stranded in refugee camps. I journeyed to one of the largest of these camps to speak to those who feel they have been forgotten. So we've currently just arrived to Jerba and we're just making our way to some of the campsites that are situated next to around the Tunisian-Libyan border. 4 main camps are created on the southwest of Tunisia. Dhiba is one of 2 main crossing points for people that had fled the conflict in Libya. The Dhiba camp is situated right next to the border and is run by the government of the United Arab Emirates. An hour away is the Ramada camp, managed by UN administration. Tatooine's soccer stadium is a project of the Kingdom of Qatar, and the final camp is based in Shusha, a site also being monitored by the UN. We arrive at the Ramada camp. The women here seem anxious to return to Libya, the men not so much, fearing to find everything they had destroyed. Among the refugees is Sadiq Imahroug and his family. They came from Zintan in the southwest of the capital.
السيارات الكل بالهول والله واحدة توقف بيك مرة تمشي كيلوين 3 توقف واحدة
السيارات هناك وين خوفنا هيك من الضرب يا كبدي والله كان اسمه نحط له شيء قدامنا ولا الفطور يقول بك بك بدون تعايط ولا همجي والله ما الله حتى
والله ما عندنا قرش إلا ربك هو من الجماعة مرة يجيبوا في 100 200 الحمد لله نمشوا بيه في أمور.
كنت نخطط على القلب ما لقيت تخطيط هنا لقيت هنا وين نخطط والسكر حتى هو كبدي زايد علي هالايام ما عرفت شنو من الغشاش من شيء
اكيد
رجلي هذول عطوا لي الليله كبدي النلاج
ولا نقول ان شاء الله ينقذونا من هالطاغيه ان شاء الله ربي يقلعوه منا
ان شاء الله يسوقوا منا هالسخط هذا
الناس كلها اصحابنا واخوتنا الكل كملها يا رجل.
What made you decide to stay in the camps as opposed to going back home now that the regime has collapsed?
متريح وياكل وهو متريح موظف في البلاد غاديك تاكل وانت خايف ديما انت تلفت يمين ويسار يقول مرة يجيني حد ولا مرة تضربني بصاروخ لكن الحمد لله.
3 kilometers from the border is where I meet Layla, who fled from Nalut in the western mountains of Libya.
طبعا كان في قصف شديد على منطقة تحت منطقة نالوت اسمها تكوت، فخايفين علينا أهلنا من مرتزقة القذافي ومن صواريخ القذافي، هربونا عن طريق الحدود، ما جيناش عن طريق البوابة لأن نص الشعب الليبي من غير جوازات سفر. طلعنا من الحدود وصار معنا حادث في الطريق، في حالة رعب وخوف من أصوات، وفي الطريق في ثوار يقولوا لنا أسرعوا لأن الكتايب قريب يوصلوا صواريخهم ورانا، فهمتي؟
Can you tell us if you had anybody who passed away from your family and how?
خويا في وسط الجبهة قتل 5 قناصة 4 قناصة جاي 5 قناصة جاي على السادس قتله.
Do you find that your stay here or being here in Tunis is safer for you than in Libya?
هو الأمان في الله، لكن يباهي كويس أحسن من ليبيا أكيد.
Despite feeling secure in Tunisia, Layla reveals how the camps are failing in regards to hygiene and medical care.
الدكاترة قالوا لنا مش نضيفوا ميتهم، هي مية معلبة اسمها معين، لكن قالوا لنا مش صالحة للشرب، يعني في هالبنات جتهم كلاوة هنا. طبعا ما فيش حل بديل، ما فيش مية ثانية، ما عندناش إمكانية باش نطلع برا نشرب مية ثانية.
Wissam is a Libyan volunteer in the camps who chose to stay in Dhiba as much help is needed.
والله شو نقول لك، مفروض النظافة مفروض باستمرار، فالمخيم ما ينظفوش إلا بعد ما يجي يعني واحد واصل هيك يقدر ينظفوه، إلا يقعد بأسبوعين 3 ما ينظفش. يجي واحد واصل حقهم يجاروا ينظفوا، إلا خطية ما ينظفوش. أو في الحاجة الثانية أهالي نالوت وزنتان اللاجئين هنا من يوم ما صارت الثورة وهم مازالوا ما خذوش أي مرتب في يديهم، ما خذوش أي مبلغ مالي في يديهم. الأكل ضعيف، فيه خواج لكن طبخ غير جيد، غير صحي غير جيد. فحتى الطفل مرات يزروه على الأكل لحظات ويرده، تحقيه في الساحة مقمعز ويرد الأكل. مش متقبلينه.
Many children in the camps have suffered a terrible ordeal, and and the psychological scars are still being felt. To combat this, Islamic Relief has set up a day school within the camps. Amongst the subjects being taught are music, foreign languages and social studies, subjects that under Gaddafi were either prohibited or censored.
جئنا نعطي أشياء معينة للطلبة اللي هي مثلا الشيء الأساسي اللي نحن نقدمه للإنسان هي بناء الإنسان الحضاري، أو مسمى الأصح نحن نتكلم ونقول أنها التنمية البشرية. فنملك إن شاء الله نظرة إيجابية لليبيا المستقبل وليبيا الجديدة، ونحن نساهم شعبنا وأطفالنا في رسم مستقبل معين لحياتهم من خلال إدارة الوقت ومن خلال رسم خارطة معينة لتفكيرهم واختيار رسالة خاصة ورسالة عامة وفكرة معينة.
Amongst the Tunisian teachers in the school camp is Ayman Mlaiki. I asked him whether or not the traumas that the children have faced back in Libya have affected their academic performance.
لا، في بداية الأزمة يعني أول ما جاء كان فما شوية، يعني كان فما شوية تقوقع حول أنفسهم، كانوا رافضين يعني الاحتكاك شوية، كان يعني الحالة النفسية الأولى في بداية الوضعية كانت يعني صعيبة شوية، حتى رافضين أنه أي حد يدخل عليهم غريب يصورهم إلى آخره، لكن بعدين والحمد لله يعني نجحنا في التعامل معهم. نتصور كنتوا تشوفوا فيهم تو يعني عاديين جدا الحمد لله، وهذا فضل من الله أنه استطعنا أنه نخرجوهم لأنه هو طفل لازم يعيش حياته كطفل، المفروض ما يكون بعيد على الحرب وعلى المشاكل الكبار، وهذا الحمد لله اللي نجحنا فيه وما عادش عندهم مشكل هذا.
How did you manage to bring the children out of the trauma that they were experiencing?
عندنا استراتيجية عمل، وبالطبيعة احنا يعني عندنا خبرة في التعامل مع الأطفال واحد، فعملنا استراتيجية وعملنا خطة متاع عمل، وقعدنا نشتغلوا على يعني نفسية الطفل، وحاولنا نندمجوا معاهم، نقربوهم لينا، نقربوا منهم، نلعبوا معاهم، نحكيوا لهم، نعملوا لهم حفلات إلى آخره، والاندماج صار يعني كلي وخرجوا من الأزمة اللي كانوا يعيشوا فيها.
The children also enjoy fun activities, from painting and acting to games and competitions. I spoke to Libyan scout leaders to find out more about their role.
نحن مجموعة حركة العامة وكشافة ومرشدات في ليبيا فوضية كشاف بنغازي. الرحلة كلها الجروب بالكامل 12 قائد. الهدف من الرحلة هي مساعدة أخوتنا النازحين من جبل الغربي. طبعا الهدف من الرحلة هي مساعدة أهالينا.
As I understand, these children have suffered some kind of psychological issues. Can you tell us a little bit more about what kind of problems they have faced?
في لما تجي فتاة ولا طفلين قدام بعضهم تحق في عدوانية مفرطة، يعني المفروض سنه 10 سنين، لا تلقاه يضرب ويهارج وينتج في الشعار، يعني في عدوانية، في سلوكيات يعني اكتسابا من الحرب سيئة فيه. مرات تلقاه منطوي خايف، يعني تلقاه بروح على الانطواء، يجي متى تقول له تعال معنا ما يجيكش، يخاف منك. في وحدين هلم حوشين مطاحن يجي يقول لك ما عادش عندنا حوش.
Right, I can see you've got your magazine, so can you tell us a little bit more about that?
القايمين بالمجلة كلهم قادة في الكشافة، تحكي عن مواضيع الدور الكشافة شنو في المجتمع. شنو هم الكشافة تعرفين عن طريق وشنو الخدمات اللي بعد 17 فبراير شنو اللي دارونها. طبعا الاشغال اللي دارون واجد نعرف، يعني انت عارفه لما صار نزوح من العاملين والوافدين اللي في ليبيا، المجهود يديروا فيه يعني حرام المجتمع مش عارفين، مجهود ناس ضحت بارواحها، يعني في عندنا شهداء من القاده، فتم شنو داروا هذه المجله مش يعبروا يوصلوا الدور نتاعهم للمجتمع نتاعهم. هذين المواضيع اللي في المجله بصفه عامه كلنا.
Ali is another Scouts leader who has arrived at the camp to help. He told me of his organization's financial needs.
بالنسبة للكشافة ذاتيا، نحن ككشافة جينا ذاتيا بفلوسنا الخاص بمالنا الخاص، لكن جينا إلى ذهيبة ما كانتش عندنا شيء بالكامل.
What specific resources do you feel are missing, and is there anything in particular that you need to enhance the quality of your work?
نحن أول ما أتينا من بنغازي ما كانش عندنا صورة واضحة، ما كانتش صورة بالكامل واضحة. جينا لمساعدة أهالينا فقط لا غير. شنو هل هي ترويح الأطفال أو مساعدة في توزيع المخازن؟ لم نعلم أي شيء. جينا أساساً بنخدم أهالينا هنا، فوجدنا ما شاء الله انفتحت علينا الأشياء كثر وعرفونا الناس كلهم وتأقلمنا مع الوضع.
The aim of these temporary schools and uplifting activities is to try and bring stability and routine back into the children's lives in order to help them deal with the violence they witnessed back home. The Tunisian community has shown its contribution by volunteering to deliver concerts for kids inside the camps in an attempt to drive momentum and entertain the young refugees.
احنا جينا من تونس العاصمة على طلب من اللجان الثورية الليبية لإقامة حفلات خاصة بالأطفال الليبيين فقط للترفيه عنهم في مشاكل الحرب.
What in particular are you trying to address by conducting these activities here?
الهدف متاعنا انه نحاولوا نخرجوا الطفل من العقده النفسيه اللي عاشها ايامات الحرب. هذا هو الهدف متاعنا، انه ترفيه على الطفل، نحاولوا باش ينسى المشاكل اللي عاشها في ليبيا ايامات الحرب.
Do you think that these activities are working with the children?
اكيد، لانه العروض اللي قمنا بهم الثلاث ايام هذوما نجحوا 100%، وخاصه عرض البارح كانت ما يقارب 1500 طفل حاضر في القاعه، وخرجوا مبسوطين بكدا وطلبوا باش نعاودوا لهم عرض اخر لانهم خرجوا متفرهدين بكدا.
Support is also being met from international bodies. Amina and her mother Riziza had just arrived to Dhiba when they spoke to me about their contribution.
We came from Manchester, all the way from Manchester. We brought 2 ambulance cars and we went through France and Italy and came all the way to Tunis. And these 2 ambulance cars are being taken all the way to Nalut, to the mountains.
Aziza is planning bigger projects, which she hopes will come into effect soon.
نحن جمعية قائمة لها 7 سنوات وقائمة على شؤون وقضايا الطفل والمرأة، يعني نقوم بنادي زي نادي صغير هيك يكون فيه مكتبة.
Emily Sahli, an American Libyan, came to visit the camps from Seattle, Washington. Anticipating to find broken spirits, she was shocked to see positive attitudes all round.
This is very new. I'm very impressed with the professionalism and the emphasis on education. I think that's very important. I also think it's very important that for children the politics aspect is not being portrayed to them at all.
Emily's father joins her on her journey and shares with me his experience from Libya.
When I came here, I didn't think I decided just to stay in Dhiba. But when I look at the border, I smelled freedom. I told my brother, like, I don't want to drive, I want to walk. I walked. There is no interior minister, there is no exterior ministry, there is there's no questions. What are you? Who are you? I just gave them my Libyan passport, expired. I said, my passport is expired. When American, he said, no. He just wrote my name and he said, welcome to your country. That's it. Wow. And then when I went to the mountain, I see kids are happy, smiling, free. And then when I see people from Masrata, my village, from Benghazi, Doctor Without Borders, new machines in the hospital. Wow.
Despite some improvements, work is still needed to bring the country back to its feet. World Medical Camp for Libya is one of the leading organisations working to create stability within the country. The charity's headquarters is based in central London, where I went to meet its press officer and find out more about their campaign.
We're such a new organisation. We were set up 6 months ago and we only got our charity status in July. So we're still yet to mature and have a focused campaigning strategy. The way we've worked is we react to needs. So we'll get a call from a hospital in Misrata, we need so-and-so and we need it now. So we'll do an appeal and then collect the money, buy the aid and send it. So we've never had a sustained campaign where we're saying we're campaigning just for this cause, this is what the need is. We work more on an appeal demand basis. We've definitely used social media to our advantage. So we've had a Twitter accounts and our Facebook accounts where we interact with people that supported us or want to know more about the issues, or they'll contact us through Twitter or our Facebook saying that even doctors or nurses will contact us and we want to help, how do we help? And they found us through social networking. So we found it more of a gathering place or a networking place. Also we have used it to raise awareness, but we've never used it to gather information. So our information of what's needed has always been through one-to-one contacts with hospitals and doctors on the ground and people on the ground, rather than relying on a tweet here or there, because how do you ever verify anything? And especially in Libya, with places that needed the help. We do want to build more, because we're quite a young organisation. We have quite very young, innovative volunteers. We do want to explore more of the opportunities with social networking, with regarding to campaigning, raising donations, etc. So that's something that we're going to be exploring. But at the moment, and we also want to build up our website to make it more interactive, more user-friendly, and kind of more exciting and new. Now we have this sort of breathing space, I guess, with what's happening in Libya, that we can now concentrate on sort of maturing our organisation and building it up.
Hassan Natiga is one of the directors of the charity. I asked him what work is being done to help Libyan refugees stranded abroad, some of which are too traumatized to return.
With the recent events, we understand that the National Transitional Council has made plans to help the Libyans stranded abroad through the Libyan embassies, with the assumption that they are now the government authority. However, we understand the logistics and logistical and the time scale to achieve that. So until then, of course, we will help with our means. Our vision is basically about the children and women after war. How can they help them psychologically? How can they help them to rehabilitate them back to normal life? How can we help with the families to move back from the refugees camps in Libya and these areas in Tunis and, as you mentioned, in Egypt and Italy, back to their homes.
Arish Shalabi is a student in London who has volunteered with the organisation since its launch. She tells me of the role students such as herself have taken in the charity.
We do have student ambassadors in many universities around London and outside of London. For example, we have been in contact with societies like society leaders in universities, and they were very interested in our cause and have actually kind of got people in the society to donate to our charity. Our charity has been very successful in generating aid. We have been receiving funds regularly from people. Our new events would be more abseiling events kind of for students, and we're going to start targeting people during Freshers Week, try and help them fundraise and donate to people who still need our medical supplies.
Working closely with WMCL is the Libyan British Relations Council, which was created to provide dialogue between Britain and the new Libya. I spoke to one of the founders of the organisation to find out what their vision of a democratic Libya entails.
The idea here is that to give everybody in Libya a fair chance at participating in deciding their fate, what affects their daily lives.
Your organisation aims to try and provide dialogue and also development reports within the region. How accurate are they and how are they being verified?
Eyewitnesses is what we're using. We're using people that we know personally, we know who are honest, and we're not. Before we go into, for example, we got involved with the Foreign Office in a series of meetings which were dedicated to different cities in Libya. The idea was to bring in people who were at these cities when fighting was going on, for them to say what they witnessed with their own eyes. And we usually speak to these people and tell them that as tempting as it is to exaggerate, do not exaggerate, only stick to the facts that you witnessed. Don't give us anything that you've heard secondhand.
Your committee is involved heavily with its relationships with MPs. Can you expand on what kind of relationship you hold?
The relationship was instigated by us. At the beginning of this conflict, we felt that there was a lot of misinformation, and it is and the wrong assumptions being made in the media simply because Libya was always a black hole when it came to information.
With your connection with the British Parliament, does this mean that Britain has a voice in the decisions that are going to be made in Libya?
Not much at all, because the idea here is for us to influence them with our vision of what we want Libya to become. The idea here is that all the information was coming out of Libya was coming through the official TV channels or the official news agencies in Libya, which obviously are not fair and are not balanced. And we wanted to make sure that we present a different view of what's happening in Libya, of what Libyans aspire to and what Libyans are like. So the idea was for us to influence them rather than the other way around.
You're working to provide support for free and fair elections, but does this mean that you silence the opposition voice who may support the Gaddafi regime?
We have to go through, after the last 7 months of civil war, we have to go through a a conciliatory process between all Libyans. And that also will apply to some of the regime's foot soldiers. Obviously, you have to draw the line at criminal activities, but in terms of ideology, we could not reject people just simply because they had an ideology that agreed with Gaddafi's or had an opinion that was different to us. That's exactly what we're trying to go away from. So everybody should have a voice, as long as they respect that this is their opinion, and the majority's opinion will take effect. And if they're not in the majority, then they have to respect the decision made by the democratic process.
Libya can now look forward to what many hope will be a democratic government, elected by the people for the people. But there are many who are afraid to return, knowing their homes, schools and roads have been brought to ground. The revolution's core demand for freedom has so far been protected. For now, the real test remains: rebuilding Libya and forming a democracy.